And with that, as we have done our second mock draft closer to draft night, my good friend, I've got a lot of explaining to do with the Dallas Cowboys, but he is by far the best one in the business and knows exactly what's going on with the Dallas Cowboys. So joining me, Doug Brooks. So I got to tell you, Doug, I mean, like I said, the first mock draft was very impressive. The second mock draft, I told a lot of people there was going to be tons of movement, and sure enough, there was. I mean, looking up in this list, I'll bring it back up again. But what did you think of this draft list, honestly?
Well, first of all, appreciate you having me here on your show. As always, you are incredibly knowledgeable, not only about your team, but obviously you know about the needs of other teams. That's what makes you so great. Always been impressed by you, so appreciate you having me on. You know, it's pretty good, but the one thing that we all know about the draft is real simple. There's always going to be some surprises, and according to the surprises, some of those names are going to drop. I'm looking at there's still a lot of heat for some reason about JJ.
Mm-hmm.
And he could very well maybe even move up from what I'm hearing. The thing is that the steam has left Drake May. And I'm not hearing too much positive stuff. I think I forgot who the guy's name was. I forgot. Forgive me for not remembering him, but he said he wouldn't even, he's not going to do too well. They don't think he is. I think when you start talking about the quarterbacks and where they fall, some team is going to be very interested possibly to move up, and all that good talent that you have all so eloquently talked about is going to drop down, and it's going to make things very interesting because of that. But as far as coming down a lot there, and I guess I might as well just go with my team. I like what you said, but I got to tell you, I don't agree with that. And it's not because of what you said. We do need offensive line help. But the wild card of at least my team, the Cowboys, Jake, is that what are we ultimately going to do with Tyler Smith?
Mm-hmm.
If you leave him at guard, then we will need a left tackle. That's the big debate that's going on. If you move him to left tackle, are you now dependent on TJ Bass to take over the left guard position? Mm-hmm. And so that's I believe that question will be answered before the draft. We'll just find out according to the draft. I believe that we should go offensive line first round without a doubt. The only reason why I kind of debate what you said about the other side, what we have to remember is that they have paid Terrence Steele a lot of money, and he's coming off. Last year was his year that he played, the first year off of ACL. Well, we already know in football, when we start talking about coming off the ACL, you're back to probably your normal self in your second year coming back off. So before he got injured, he was almost on Pro Bowl level. So I think that they're going to run with Terrence Steele. And I love flex. But the thing about flex is kind of hard to go from right tackle to a left tackle, even if you're keeping Tyler Smith at left guard. It's just not smart. You just might as well draft a left tackle. So I think that offensive line, as you say it, will be there. Another interesting thing, Snake, I don't mean to take up the time, but if that kid from Oregon is there, Johnson, the center,
mm-hmm.
it becomes extremely interesting, considering that we lost our starting center, and they say they might go with Brock Hoffman, but I would be happy with that pick because he is a dog, the kid from Oregon. So I love him. But you're right, offensive line. It's just Tyler Smith kind of holds the cards of how they're going to attack.
Yeah, and ultimately, I mean, because the thought process of it is that I mean, you kind of go back to Dak Prescott's rookie year, right? And you think about having Travis Frederick, you end up having a really good solid line for that time, and at the same time, the run game was just so efficient. So I started thinking, well, you don't have Tony Pollard, you don't have Michael Gallup, because at this point Dak's price is going to start to end up going up from here on out. So the best thing you could possibly do if you're thinking about it, because whether Dak stays or he goes, I would love to at the very least get my line in order so that way it's a lot simpler, because I think Jake Ferguson's a very good pick. I thought he was a very good tight end that was very serviceable and was very much somebody that was efficient, because after losing Dalton Schultz, that was kind of the hard part that the Cowboys knew they needed to fill. So at that point, you got your line established, and who knows? You go and get the next runner. You maybe go and get the next receiver, whatever you need to, because as far as the time is basically ticking with Dak Prescott, whether he stays or he goes, I think at this point, if you're Stephen Jones, you got to be kind of thinking about the future from here if this is the point on.
Well, you're absolutely right, but the problem is that we lost so much depth.
Mm-hmm.
We have so many holes that if just about anywhere where you pick, it's going to be a good pick for you because you almost need rotation. But we need day one starters.
Yep.
Probably within the first 2 to 3 rounds, no question about it. And I just really believe that this, I'm not going to say a safe pick, but the smart pick. And you're right. You need to do it whether it's for Dak Prescott, and keep in mind, if it's not Dak, a lot of people want Trey Lance to play anyway. Well, he signed to 2025. So you already got your next quarterback probably in the room already, and you definitely want to keep the line right for him if Dak is gone. So I just think that it's just a smart move to do that. But at the same time, you got to play the what if game when we start talking about, especially when you start talking in the 20s and down. What if your guy is not there? What if these prize offensive linemen? And then, Jake, you studied quite well. I try to do the best I can as well. But one thing I learned about my team, our draft grades is not the Dallas Cowboys draft grades.
Yeah.
What we say is a first round pick, they may say it's a second or third round pick. And that's where the drama really starts. But as I said before, and I hate to be repetitive, but I really do believe that at least in the first round, it will be an offensive lineman.
Yeah, because ultimately, I mean, whether it's Dak or it's not, or it could be Trey Lance, or it could be any other quarterback that could come in the building. I mean, either way, you want to basically be prepared for the future, because, again, if you're looking at a mulligan season from the Eagles, you're looking at a defense and, of course, a very efficient offense in Washington with Dan Campbell. And then the Giants, I mean, let's be honest, they go and get a playmaker. You're still going to have to figure out that quarterback position.
Yeah.
So time itself, isn't always of the essence. But if you use the time wisely, if you're Stephen Jones, hopefully it pans out on their side. So let's talk about that with Dak Prescott, because right now there's some noise now in the building because of the fact of it is Dak's price is going to start to go up, and it's now having to get guys like CeeDee Lamb and like Micah Parsons, which Micah Parsons always loves to be vocal on his podcast all the time. I like some of his takes, and I can definitely respect him protecting his quarterback. But at the same time, we just got to be honest here. I mean, the Cowboys, initially, when you get gutted by Dan Campbell in Washington with a lot of their defensive players, this defense is going to look very, very different. And now having Mike Zimmer there as a defensive coordinator, things are going to start to add up. How do you really kind of see this playing out with the Cowboys? Because to me, look, I'm very much crossing my fingers this season. Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys, I'm hoping it's not a CeeDee Lamb injury away from where this team regresses and then you really have to start thinking about it. I'm hoping he stays healthy all the year. But how do you kind of see this panning out?
I don't see a 12-win season again for the third year in a row. I don't see that. However, a Dak Prescott led teams always seems, at least in the last 4 to 5 years, always seem to get double-digit wins one way or the other. Now, of course, the talent level helps out when you have an Amari Cooper, when you have a healthy Michael Gallup, when you had a rookie CD Lamb. Of course, you're gonna do well. When you had somewhat of a younger Ezekiel Elliott, who still had some gas in the tank, and then of course you had an All-Pro line. You know, anytime you have 2 or 3 All-Pros on your line, you're supposed to be pretty good. So that's not the case. However, now you look at today. Well, you lost 2 of your starting offensive linemen. Tyler Biadasz is gone. Tyron Smith is gone. You got to fill those holes. And they're not. And when you start talking about somebody like Tyron Smith, we're talking about a walking Hall of Famer. It's hard to replace that. I don't care how old he is. You know, with last time I checked, he was voted second team All-Pro last year. So, you know, it's hard to make up for that. Tyler Biadasz was a Pro Bowl center 2 years ago. So he's not trash. You know, you're gonna have to fill in those holes. Now, you really have no running back room.
Yep.
Rico Dowd just got signed. You got Deuce Vaughn. I mean, the guy that hardly even dressed. You got Malik Davis. You got Hunter Lemke. You got Malik Davis. So when I just gave you those names, that don't scare anybody. Yeah. So I'm saying, well, obviously we're going to need to get a back in the draft, but if you get that, guess what? They're a rookie. So, I mean, can you really bank on, you know, the running game? Okay, you go to receivers. And I don't mean to walk it down, but receivers, you really only got one threat, CD, and then your tight end is your next best threat. And Jake, Brandon Cooks, you know, he came on late. So, again, might be a receiver that you got, but again, that's a rookie. So I don't know how you can do that. Now, defense, we lost all our depth on defensive line, defensive tackle. All the depth is gone. And what was the Achilles heel for my team? We couldn't stop the run. Yep. So, I mean, now you got to build from scratch up. We haven't signed any free agents. I'm quite sure that's going to happen, obviously, since every team has to have 90 players in the preseason. So I believe we're going to go shopping in just a few more weeks once the draft is over with. But are those players, you know, are you going to say like, okay, we got a pretty good running defense? I don't know that yet. So we got a lot of holes, Jake, that you can point at. You said defense. Obviously, I think the only thing that we're good at, that I'm stable on, is our secondary. I got 2 All-Pro cornerbacks, Diggs, Bland. I got Donovan Wilson. I still got Curse. I still got Malik Hooker. We're solid there. Michael Parsons is where are you going to play him? I know Zimmer comes from a 4-3, but are you going to make him exclusively, you know, linebacker? And then, of course, put him down on the line every now and then. But are you going to put him back at linebacker? Okay, if you put him back at linebacker, now here comes, who's your defensive ends? Tank Lawrence is there. Okay, now how much do you trust Sam Williams, second-round pick from last year, who's now probably going to be your starting DN? How much do you trust him? So there's it's too many questions on defense to answer your question. I'm sorry, I took the long way around. When you got as many questions as that, you can't really feel too solid on your predictions or something like that. We're not as good defensively now as we were at the end of the year. Dan Quinn took everybody from us. They're over there in Washington now, just about. Took all the depth away. So it remained to be seen. I can't really base anything on the Cowboys until week 1, to be honest with you. So
and that's definitely something to really outlook up on there. But at least I know I've got proof up on it. There's a Cowboys fan that's also looking for all the answers that the Cowboys are trying to basically answer up to all these questions. And so, I mean, it will be interesting, but I do really Deron Bland was a very damn good secondary. And at the time when Trayvon Diggs went down, somebody had to step up, and I think Bland did the right thing. Now, having both of them out on the same field will be a little bit of a different story. Now, the Cowboys know they're coming into an expectation where in the NFC East, and I've been, talking about this a lot, but the fact that the Eagles are basically throwing in a mulligan year with now having Kellen Moore and now having Vic Fangio as their new coordinators. Dan Quinn now goes to Washington. I was saying this in my little skit. I don't think Dallas is honestly going to end up liking that, the fact that they're going to have to face Kellen Moore and they're going to have to face Dan Quinn twice a year. I mean, in these kinds of games to really kind of show out for, because we know punching your ticket in the playoffs is the most important factor. But at the same time, if you're getting a division that's only getting tougher, and for some teams they're trying to rebound back, that's going to be a little bit harder to end up answering to, right?
No question. And when you say Kellen, the only thing that I would say about both of them is that we know them. That's the only thing I can say about Moore and Dan Quinn. However, when you talk about it, I just go through all of them. I'm going to give a little bit more credit to the Giants than what you did. I know the quarterback issue is Daniel Jones. I get it. But they did get very good on defense.
Yeah.
They did. They went and got some guys. Their defense was already pretty decent as it was. They got some guys. They're going to have an excellent pass rush this year. But the two teams that obviously you're going to have to look out for, because the same way I just said, we know Dan Quinn and Kellen Moore, they know us too. Mm-hmm. And when we start talking about Washington scares me. And the reason why I'm saying that within the division, I'm not saying Super Bowl or nothing like that.
Yeah.
But if they get Jalen Daniels, that is going to be a problem only because of what he brings to the table.
Yeah.
You already got Brian Robinson there. You still got I got
Terry McLaurin. Yep.
You still got McLaurin. You still got a good tight end. Got a pretty good offensive line. Good defense. Now you add that element of a quarterback that can get out the pocket. He's a playmaker, dynamic player. You put him back there. The Washington Commanders just got a little bit better. So I'm already expecting them. Then you got all this veteran leadership that done came over. They're gonna be pretty good. I ain't saying they're gonna win the division or nothing. Philly is going to be real tough this year, and I'm going online and saying that. Now, if Saquon, his history is he just can't stay healthy, but if he does, look out. It's scary to have Jalen Hurts and then Saquon playing, the quick read game. That's going to be hard to stop, but especially when both of them are such a serious threat to run the football. And of course, you still got AJ and Devontae, and then a healthy Dallas Goedert. Let's not forget about that. Now they did lose Kelsey, the center. That's a loss. They did lose Fletcher Cox. I believe he retired, and I believe they lost Graham. So those are two, stable, solid people. But they're loaded, and they're going after it. So I don't right now, as presently constructed, we don't look good, even in the division race as of right now.
Right.
Check me out at week 1 check me out when the final cut is done in week 4 of the preseason, and then I'll be able to say, okay, if this is what we're working with, let me go and make my prediction of how we looking. But right now, we don't look too good. We don't have no depth anywhere.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I tell you, I'm always tuning into your show, and usually I'm like, when he gets prepared by week 1, as yours truly, whenever I'm doing, Chargers content on the side, I'm going to be prepared just as much as you will be in week 1. So, I mean, we can honestly say, well, maybe to ask you, who kind of has more of the pressure on their shoulders this upcoming season? Because Dak Prescott being one of them, I mean, one, he's got a great football IQ. There's no denying it. The guy can throw. He throws smartly, and he's at the same time, when he gets that football rolling and moves the chains, there's no stopping the Cowboys' arsenal. That's what we learned last year. So is there more pressure on him, or is there pressure on Mike McCarthy? Because already now, against Green Bay twice, with two quarterbacks. He's 0-2 against both. And I think ultimately, if you're the Cowboys and if you are really riding this train with Mike McCarthy, you got to clean the skeletons out of the closet here, because in the end, it ain't even just, division rival matchups you got to worry about. But even as you look at, because I think we're going to go through a new wave of really good players coming into the NFL in this draft, and more particularly quarterbacks, wide receivers, and I think offensive tackles. And this is exactly what the NFC needs, because the AFC expectations totally different. They got high caliber quarterbacks. But who do you think has more of the pressure this upcoming season? Is it Dak, or is it maybe potentially McCarthy?
Well, put it this way, and it's different. If Dak has a bad year, guess what happens next year?
Yep.
Whether he's with Dallas or somewhere else, he gets to play football. Yep. He won't be out of football. He'll get another job. Mm-hmm. Mike McCarthy loses, and he loses his job. Is he gonna get another head coaching job somewhere? It took him this long to get the Dallas Cowboy job. I mean, I believe, but see, that answer is kind of laid up with the Jones family, because see, if I'm a lame duck coach and I'm looking at what's going on this offseason so far for the Cowboys, you almost chopping my head off before we even snapped the first down. You done took all my players away. You ain't tried to sign nobody. You didn't go after nobody in free agency. You leave me with no depth. I want to run the football, but I have no running back worth talking about. You really haven't. You've taken away all my depth on defense. So are you really? What am I supposed to do with this roster? Yeah. And everybody's on a one year deal. So you just hired Mike Zimmer, but he's on a 1 year deal. Mm-hmm. And if you bring in another coach, Mike Zimmer's not going to be your defensive coordinator.
Right.
So really, I believe the pressure is really, Mike McCarthy. I don't think he's going to make it. But then it's really on the Jones, because who you going to bring to Dallas when you're going to have to hire a whole new staff, position coaches, coordinators, head coach, which means whoever the quarterback is going to have to learn a whole new system. I mean, you really want to start this over again? Because that's exactly what is going to happen. But to answer your question, and I ain't mean to be long-winded again, it's Mike McCarthy who's going to have to make a way. It looked like going to have to make a way out of no way. That's what it's starting to look like, because Dak Prescott will have a job next year, whether it's with the Cowboys or whoever else it's going to be. He'll get another contract.
Yeah, I think you're on to something with it, though. I mean, yeah, Dak Prescott, because ultimately, Dak, with the amount of efficiency that he's basically had over the years that he's played in the NFL, he'll have a job somewhere. And
put it this way, Jake. If Dak Prescott, if he wins double digits, his value just went up again.
Yeah,
I mean, depending on that, and check this out: if the Cowboys let him walk, he will be the number one quarterback in free agency. He will be the best quarterback off any quarterback coming out the draft. There will be teams, I ain't gonna say how many, but I'll throw up one scenario for you. I'll throw out maybe two. Seattle, let's throw that out. You don't think that they would love to have Dak there instead of Geno? All right, that's one. How about this one? Let's just say, look at what the New York Jets have done. Okay. Ready-made team. You got Aaron Rodgers there, who probably will be his last year this year. You don't think that the Jets would possibly look at Dak Prescott to step right in with a good running back and Bryce Hall? I believe I pronounced him right.
Yeah, Breece Hall. Yep.
Breece Hall. You got the number one. You got a good number one wide receiver there. You got a good tight end. You got an excellent defensive coach in Robert Saleh, and the defense is always there. You don't think that they wouldn't go after Dak Prescott and pay him accordingly? He'll have a job. He will have a job. I mean, it's just a matter of where it will be. So he'll be fine. But Mike McCarthy, I don't know if he'll get another job again.
Yeah, it's hard to say because, I mean, when you think of Mike McCarthy, I mean, you think about, afterwards, like what happened with Belichick. Belichick was too one-dimensional. He's not somebody that was basically able to adjust to this generation's, new NFL. And so that's where it was kind of just the root of his downfall. And so when you look at McCarthy with his so-called analytics and all the rest of it, I mean, come on. If we were going to be talking about analytics, we wouldn't be struggling this much to really, figure this out. And so, yeah, I think in the end, if you are the Cowboys, yeah, the Jones, I hate to say this, but when you have a meddling owner like Jerry Jones, it's hard enough to basically try to get everything in line, get it structurized, make sure it's consistent. Because it's like you got Jerry on the television almost every day, and he's speaking for the Cowboys rather than just you hear it from McCarthy every day. That was kind of the thing that would not roll with Jimmy Johnson, that would not roll with Bill Parcells. And even when people were saying, oh, you could see, Belichick go to the Cowboys. Are you kidding me? That would not roll well. Like,
Well, yeah. I know you don't cover the Cowboys, Jake. I know you talk about them, but I know you don't cover them like I do. Mm-hmm. But let me throw this in for you listeners or whoever may be watching this replay. What the Cowboys have done is try to don't pay attention to the words. Right. Jerry Jones is not watching no film. He's not scouting players. That's not his job. That's Will McClay and his scouting department. That's what they do. Jerry is pay attention to their actions, not the words. Their actions are showing right now that they're in a rebuild. But the media and people, if you're not covering them, they're still talking playoffs, Super Bowl. I've been saying on my show, the Cowboys' actions are showing me they are in a rebuild. And all you got to do is look. They already knew what they could do for the salary cap. Extend Dak, extend CD. That's restructure Diggs contract, restructure Terrence Steele contract. They have done absolutely nothing. So what does that tell me? Now you get this talk about, well, we're going to let Dak walk. Now all of a sudden, Michael Parsons, a little stuff, they don't want to pay him all that. Now you're wondering, are they going to extend CD? Well, here's what I'm saying. Now I heard some crazy stuff about Dak Prescott getting traded for Derek Carr and he going to the Raiders or something like that for picks. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is you do all of this stuff if you are in a rebuild. If your mind is made up that you're not going to pay these guys, then you're rebuilding because they're going to walk anyway. It's just going to happen like that. So once you look at it from a rebuild perspective, some of this stuff is starting to make sense, what they're doing. But if you're looking at it from, well, we won 12 games last year, and all we need is just a couple things, and we can go back and really challenge for NFC and all that, their actions are not showing that. Jerry will send you hope and try to keep everybody engaged and get ESPN talking. But his actions are showing that as of right now, we're looking like we're in a rebuild.
Yeah.
That's what it sounded like to me.
Man, look at that. Every time when we come up onto the show, man, you've got the big time take. You got the big time explanation for it. I'm there for it. I love it, man. And so, I mean, yeah, when it's big because in the end, yeah, like I wish that I was able to be in that same front office as a lot of the executives, as a lot of, the front office people in many of the other organizations, even including the Cowboys, to get a clearer sense. Yeah. But the only thing I could very much do is just perspect, analyze, evaluate, and then come up with the best balanced, opinion possible that, as I've always said, I always hope many of them prove me wrong because in the end, I'm looking at the reality, and I think you're all right. I think they definitely are in this rebuild mode because you don't just not sign anybody and only just Eric Kendricks for nothing unless you're doing this for a reason.
When you draft your players, you want them to be the best that they can be.
Yes.
The Dallas Cowboys are showing me by their actions that the ones that have elevated themselves at least to all-pro level or whatever, they are being punished for being good. That's my super take. Because you're not trying to pay anybody. The Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, are selling that they want too much money. They want you to be good. They just don't want you to be that good.
Right.
Dak Prescott, second team All Pro, second runner up for MVP award. CeeDee Lamb is waiting on Justin Jefferson to get paid first, just like Justin Jefferson is waiting for CD to get paid. We're talking $30 million wide receiver now. That's that'll be behind Tyreek Hill, of course. That'll be top 2 wide receiver salary. Michael Parsons is going to be the highest paid defensive player in the history of the NFL. That's coming up. So Jerry Jones does not want to pay possibly Dak Prescott $60 million a year.
No.
He does not want to pay CeeDee Lamb $30 million a year. He had problems just a couple years ago paying Amari Cooper $20. He cut him. He traded him for $20. He didn't want it. Now you're talking about Parsons, of course, becoming the highest paid. Jerry has never had this type of problem before. He's had superstar players, but he ain't never had guys who are at the top of their position. There ain't nowhere in the world he want to pay $3 million, the top salary in their position. There's just no way. He's never had it before. And right now what he's showing me is he forget about signing one of them, although I really do believe CD is going to get signed. I believe Michael Parsons is going to get signed. I don't feel the same way about Dak Prescott. But as of now, nobody has been extended.
Yeah.
That's not the way other teams operate. You see Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City say, man, we ain't going to even play with this. We're going to sign you to 10 years.
Yep.
Joe Burrow, we're going to go and sign you to heavy. Justin Herbert, we're going to go ahead and sign you. We're not going to even play Josh Allen. We're not going to even play around. We want y'all.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see that same energy when it comes to Dak Prescott at all. He's played on 2 franchise tags. He's taking the Kirk Cousins route. Whenever you let your quarterback play on a franchise tag, you're really not sure about him. You don't want him and to play on 2 franchise tags. That's really all I need to know. I know Dak that they don't want to pay him $60 million. Some will say, and I don't blame them, and some will say, well, who says he got to be 60? Just pay him above maybe Justin Herbert. What's your quarterback getting, 52?
52 and a half, yep.
Okay, just give Jack 53. I mean, just give him 53 and we good. You know what I'm saying? Yep. That's what there's that. But see, nobody wants to give that. They don't want to do it. So I believe that's why I'm saying I'm not paying attention to the words when they say, hey, man, Dak Prescott he's this, he's that, he's this, he's that. Show him. You ain't showed him nothing. You let him pay on 2 franchise tags. This is the Dallas Cowboys that I know.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny that you end up saying that because I always kept hearing the narrative that, Dak Prescott is obviously Kirk Cousins, but with a star on the brand. And that's literally what is happening from here on out. But yeah, it really is. It really is quite a strange and interesting scenario for the Cowboys moving forward. But again, I think, at the end of the day, you just really have to face up to reality at this point, because when you're picturing all of this stuff, it's just not really a good look for the fan base itself. And then let alone, the football fans who obviously know that the big brand like the Cowboys, this starts happening. I mean, if the Cowboys themselves go on television tomorrow and they basically said, oh, by the way, this is a rebuild. You know how many people are going to freak out?
They're going to freak out.
You never hear a big brand say to themselves it's a rebuild.
They will never say it. But again, as I said before, pay attention to their actions. Their actions as of today are showing me, based off the comparison of what they used to do, and I'm not talking about 10 years ago, I'm talking about just last year, is showing me something completely different. And in fairness to Jerry and Stephen Jones, I'll give you another hot little take real quick.
All right.
If you don't believe in it and you ran your race for these 8 years with Dak Prescott and Tyron Smith is now gone, the window is closing. If you don't think this team can get it done, then guess what you're supposed to do? you're supposed to bust it up.
Yep.
And maybe that's what they've sat at a round table and said, hey, maybe Dak Prescott, maybe he's not the guy that we think they can get us over the Super Bowl, and we're not going to waste another 3-4 years and paying him $60 million a year trying to figure out if he's the guy. By now, he would have shown us if this is the guy. And as much as I love Dak, and much as some fans love Dak, here's the bottom line. So I've been trying to tell everybody, Jake, you got to go ahead and give the whole story when it comes to Dak. You just can't pick out the narrative that you want to fit, that fits you. So yes, he's 2-5 in the playoffs, 2-7, whatever he is, 2-5. But the whole other side of the story is he was second in MVP voting. He led the league in touchdowns last year. You got to assess the quarterback with the whole story. You just can't say, well, he can't get it done in big games. You got to do the whole thing. If you feel like this guy has reached his ceiling, then you don't pay him. I mean, it's just that simple. And their fairness to Jerry and Steven, if that's what they feel, he ain't gonna get no contract. They just gonna play it out this year. That's what I'm looking at. And if I'm CeeDee Lamb, I don't mean to keep going. Why would I sign an extension when I don't know who my quarterback gonna be?
That's very true too.
Mm-hmm. I don't like Trey Lance. I mean, I'm not talking about me. CeeDee Lamb may not like Trey Lance. Yeah. Why would I sign somewhere? You need to just let me walk and let me go to the place where I can keep up these all-pro years. I don't want to have to struggle like Devontae Adams did this year. Mm-hmm. Still great, but he wasn't all-pro this year. Man, been all-pro every year, the last 6, 7, 8 years. Now, all of a sudden, can't find him. See what I'm saying? So, a lot of decisions got to be made. And as much as Michael Parsons, for instance, is you don't like, all of a sudden they say he's growing weary. The Cowboys are growing weary of Michael Parsons. Why? Because he talked. What about his production on the field? He's been an all-pro his whole career. Yeah. Rookie year, first year, third year. But you don't want to pay him the money. If I'm Michael Parsons, I'm saying well, we ain't going to win no Super Bowl anyway. Let me take my talents to a team that I know I got a chance to win. So there's a lot of stuff going on, Jake, in Dallas, Texas. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Oh, man. It's like they said, man, everything that's big up in Texas right now, we've got bigger issues up in Dallas, and this is where they really have to solve it up into this draft. Doug, appreciate you jumping on by, man. You literally take my breath away, and you got me off my rocker up on here when it came to the reality of the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm thank God we've got the clip for it, because many people, and I'm going to be sending this to multiple Cowboy friends of mine that I know, I'm like, you need to listen to this. This is a real thing. It's like when we talk about politicians, when we got PSAs, you're going to need to listen to this, because this is real stuff we're talking about here.
Yeah, it is real stuff. And like I said, you got to come down out of the cloud. Yep. You got to sooner or later look at things and say, okay, it is what it is. And right now, if you're looking at it from a hopeful lens, or if you're being optimistic, then you still going to have this dreamland or whatever. But there are some pessimistic, real Cowboy fans that say, this ain't looking good. And I'm one of those that say, no, you can't fool me. I know how you operate. I've seen how you operate over the last 5 years. What you're doing now, this is not what y'all do. So has a decision been made through y'all internally saying, hey, we reached our ceiling. Zach Martin is getting older, a little longer in the tooth. He ain't got too many more good years left, even though he's first team All-Pro. Is Tyron Smith is already gone. We have no running backs. We got really one true wide receiver, and as you just said earlier, Jake, one injury away. If he goes down, who Dak throwing to? Yep. Good Lord, who? I mean, come on. So I'm saying, once you look at it from a realistic perspective, what else can you say? But we might be in a little trouble here. We might really be in a little trouble here, and it might just be the way that they set it up. Mm-hmm. That's another reality that you got to say. you ain't saying it, and you know what you said. But really, behind closed doors, have you said this is a mulligan year? We're going to get rid of McCarthy. We know he ain't going to win the Super Bowl. Let's take away all the stuff away. Let's just have him do a real good coaching job. We got a veteran coordinator in Mike Zimmer. He'll do a decent job. But are we just going to wipe this slate clean next year? Because we're not going to hire McCarthy next year. Yep. Dak, we're not going to pay him $60. Okay, CD, he's on the contract, but no. Yeah, we going to roll with Trey Lance with this one next year? Is there a quarterback in the draft that wants to do it? And then one more thing, Jake. How about this one? See, you got me flowing now. And I guess I'm setting up my own show. What free agent, considering that they're looking at how the Dallas Cowboys are treating their marquee players, what outside free agents would want to come here to Dallas, seeing how they're getting treated? So I'm saying, you're really gonna have to get lucky in the draft and have these guys for 5-year contract and hope you hit in the draft, because there ain't no free agents coming here. Ain't no free agents coming to Dallas. They see how you treating Dak. They see how you doing CD. They see how you doing. They saw how you did Dez Bryant. They saw how you did Ezekiel Elliott. They saw all this. So they saw how you did Cole Beasley. They saw all of this. They saw how you let DeMarcus Ware go. They saw this. I mean, the list go on and on. Yep. So I'm saying, like, what free agents really want to come to Dallas? The guys want to win rings now. The guys want to win rings. They want to go play with Mahomes. They want to go play with Lamar, even though Lamar ain't really won that. There are teams that would really want to go play with Josh Allen before they would want to come play with Dak Prescott. Seriously.
Yeah.
Because you know you got a chance, a real chance to win. This is the reality and some Cowboy fans looking at me right now want to just say, man, take him off your show, man. We don't want to hear that. You got to hear it because it's the truth. That's all I got to say.
And that's what we love about this show, right? We got to have these conversations because you got to get to the bottom line. You got to get to the truth of a lot of things. That's what ultimately what makes the show great. Big time show, Doug Brooks. Appreciate you jumping on by, man. Enjoying the rest of the week, man. Like I said, this is at least my Friday from here. I'm off the rest of the week. I've got a concert to go into, and I'm rather enjoy my life at a concert than to be one of those obnoxious drunk guys yelling at television because we're only 12 games into Major League Baseball. So
exactly. Got a long way to go. With that.
Exactly right, man. Doug, appreciate you coming on by. Take care of yourself, and we'll see what happens with those Cowboys come week one. Sir.
Appreciate you having me on, man.
Absolutely. Yep, there you go, guys.
Everyone. Thanks for watching. Make sure that you guys like, follow, and subscribe to get the latest from the show. Also, go check out a few of our coolest segments that we've had from previous shows. And also make sure that you stay up to date on the show on all platforms, wherever you guys find your podcasts.